Okay, welcome to the second part of the Photoshop Basics tutorial. I've deleted the bush from the previous one because that's just to show you how to select with the Magic Wand tool, and I've kept our little penguin. The aim of this tutorial is just to show you how to use the adjustments panel, which will be really useful in changing the look of the colours in your arrangement and in your magazine covers, and also help you to change the amount of light that's in the space as well, which will be really useful. Okay, so if we look at what layers we have a penguin on top and the desert on the bottom. We want to apply the adjustments to the desert layer, and not to the penguin layer. So that means the adjustments have to go between the two layers. Anything below the adjustments will be affected. So if we go to the adjustments, make sure our desert is selected in the layers panel. Go back to the adjustments panel. If we look at brightness and contrast, this is something that is used a lot in photo editing, just to increase the amount of light in the area or to reduce it to make it look like it's nighttime. If you do it too much, it's likely to reduce the quality of your photo, so just do it until the pixels start to show underneath, say to about there, and we can increase the contrast in the photo to make it look as though there are more shadows. Okay, we can go back to our menu with this little arrow button. Another really useful effect is the vibrance. You can really add quite stunning effects with vibrance, or you can completely remove it so that it looks kind of old-fashioned and worn out. So let's keep the vibrance in for now. And saturation increases the amount of colour in the photo, so you can completely take it out for a black and white effect, or you can add more colour in. Again, if you do it too much, it reduces the quality, so just do it until your photo starts to look a little bit below standard. So I think to about there will be fine. Okay, another really useful tip is to use the colour balance to add levels of different colours into your photos. So I think it would be quite nice to add a hint of red into this scene. Maybe a bit pink. No, I don't like the pink. It's all about playing around with the levels really until you get the effect that you want. Okay. Now if we go back to our layers panel, as you can see we've got our penguin on top and all our effects in the middle and the desert at the bottom. If we were to move our penguin between the effects, you can see that it's getting affected by now colour balance 1. If you move it below vibrance 1, it's affected by the vibrance. If you move it below the brightness, it's affected by the brightness. So we don't want it to be affected, so let's move it back up to the top. Okay, we're now going to use filters and layer masks to create a shadow for our penguin. So we click on the penguin layer and right click and duplicate layer. It creates, if we choose our select tool, an exact copy of the layer. So Ctrl Z, send it back to where it was. What we need to do is flip it so that it looks like the penguin has a reflection. So we need to select our penguin copy layer and Ctrl T, which is the free transform tool. Right click on it and flip vertical, and this will send it upside down. We move it to the base of our penguin's feet. That's where the shadow will start, and press enter to save the changes. Okay, now you can see our colours down here at the bottom of our toolbox, which shows the colour that we're currently working with, and that's the colour that our tools will come out as. So we want the shadows to be black, so for now. So let's make sure both squares are black. You can also use this colour dropper tool to take colours from the background. So you can have orange or blue from the scene that we already have, which is really useful when you want to match your tools to the colours in the scene. Okay, so we stick with black for now. Okay, we can now fill the new layer with black by pressing Ctrl, Shift and Delete on the keyboard, and it will automatically fill our penguin in black for us. Now we need to distort this image so it looks more like a shadow and not like an exact copy of the penguin turned upside down and turned black. So Ctrl and T, the free transform tool again, it's very useful, and select skew. And we can now click and drag the corner of our penguin so it looks more distorted, more like a shadow. It might take a couple of tries to get right, but I want to make it so it's the same, almost the same level as that bush, so we know we've got it about right. Okay, that's about right. So now if we have our layer selected, go to our filter menu at the top, and we want to add a blur to it so it looks a bit more real. So select blur, Gaussian blur, and set it to about 3. You can play around with the settings, so set it a bit less actually, so it fits in with whatever your project is. Okay. To add a bit more depth to our shadow, we're going to duplicate the shadow again. So click on our shadow, the penguin copy, and duplicate layer, and it will be penguin copy 2. Okay, to this one I'm going to add a slightly stronger blur. So go filter, blur, and Gaussian blur. And put this up to about 8. Okay, I now want the shadow to kind of fade away as it gets further away. So I'm going to do this by selecting the top shadow layer, and I'm going to add a layer mask, and you do this by selecting the layer, and down at the bottom of the layers panel you need to click on this symbol, and that add layer mask will come up. So now it has a layer mask applied, I can now go to my gradient tool, which is in the same list as the paint bucket tool. So if I select gradient tool and just drag from left to right along the shadow, or right to left rather, and just keep playing around with it till you get it right. It might take a little while. Okay, I'm now going to change the opacity of the shadow, so I'm going to change the top one to about 50 and the bottom one to about 30. Oh, I might need a little bit more actually. So the top one to 72 or 73, and the bottom shadow layer to about 66. You can change the opacity on all layers, so it's not just restricted to making shadows. It's really a useful tool. So remember where it is. It's in the layers panel, and you can change the opacity of your layers individually. Okay, so when our scene is complete, we need to save it as a picture file. So we go for save. If you save it as a .psd, That's our project file, so we can always find it and open it and work on it from there. So let's save it as a project file so we can work on it anytime we like. And let's also save it as a picture file. Let's save it as a JPEG, which is usually good quality, and you can also change the quality of your photos as well after it's saved as a picture. I'd suggest for magazine quality you do it at maximum quality. And that's our project saved.